process. Oh, here we go. Okay. So Dan got it. Okay, yeah, recording in progress. Okay. So this is Mark Parker, Chairman of the Woodstock Inland Wetlands Watercourses Agency. Calling to order the Monday, June 12th special meeting. It is currently at 7:12 p.m. according to my digital clock on my computer. Hopefully it's right. Oh, now it's 7:13. We'll make it 7:13. Like to begin with a roll call of members present online. I'll begin. Mark Parker.
On phone, Marla Buck.
William Rowinski.
Stuart Peasley, alternate.
Okay. Thank you. Recognizing Stuart Peasley attending tonight. We'll roll him in for the meeting as an alternate. Thank you, Stuart, for coming. Action on minutes of the previous meeting. Let me call up regular meeting May 1st.
Bill Rowinski. I didn't see any problems or changes.
All right.
Nor did I.
Marla Buck, nor did I.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of the May 1st, 2023 meeting as Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Agency of Woodstock as presented.
I second the motion.
Motion's been made by Bill Rowinski, seconded by Stuart Peasley to accept the minutes as printed of the regular meeting of May 1st, 2023. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, so moved. Okay. Pending applications, we have application 03-23-04 in-ground pool and pool fence at 487 Route 198. Audette family, Vernon Pools. All right. See if I get the right document opened up here.
So Mark, we wanted a little more information when we had their application before us last month. And they have since updated their drawing demonstrating the distance from the pond, the area where they plan to install a silt fence, and a narrative to go along with that. And those documents were attached with the agenda, or a clickable link in the agenda.
I have a question. Looking at the map, there's a line that goes straight to the left and it says 180 feet plus. What is that referring to? Can anybody tell me?
I believe we were assuming that was the property line last month. So a distance measured from the property line. I could pull up the GIS and see if that's reflects that.
Yeah, because at some point it'll be back at the road, so.
The line that says 180 feet looks like it goes to the east. The line that goes to the left looks like 200 feet. I mean,
Depends.
it's probably the way is the orientation of the page. Sorry.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it online, so that's why.
Yeah.
And there it goes.
Hi, everybody. Nicole and Keith Audette are on. If somebody can show the map, we can describe what you're looking at.
So Dan, I'm looking at one document. It's yeah, it's titled, yeah. In-ground pool, yeah, okay.
The 180 that is on demonstrated here is the distance to the property line.
Okay,
It's roughly that line right there that's shown in the GIS.
The line that you were outlining that's going across the water, those are power lines. So I'm not sure if, okay, so the one side of it, okay, gotcha.
well, I don't know the exact setbacks, and if everything there is correct, Dan, then I don't have any problem with what I'm seeing. This is Bill Rowinski.
I don't have any problem. This is Marla Butts with this application.
Stuart, you have any comments?
No, it seems fine to me. They're about, what, 4 feet above the pond level, and 4 or 5 feet above pond level, and 75 feet away. It's just a matter of the soil disturbance being monitored, maintained properly.
Yes, on our previous drawing, one of the information pieces that was lacking was the area proposed for ENS control, and their updated drawing indicates a silt fence sequestering the pool area.
Just out of curiosity, how deep is the excavation?
Is that a question for us?
Anybody?
Well, the pool's gonna be a small in ground with a max depth of 6 feet,
Okay,
and it's just a fiberglass drop-in.
okay.
I'll move, this is Bill Rowinski, I'll move to approve the application 03-23-04 in-ground pool and pool fence, 487 Route 198, Audette Family and Vernon Pools, as presented with the updated drawings for erosion and sedimentation control and site details.
I second the motion. Marla Butts.
Motion's been made by Bill Rowinski, seconded by Marla Butts to approve application 03-23-04. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstained? So moved.
Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Um,
Dan, you're still screen sharing.
There we go. Okay. Okay, now I gotta find my agenda again. Somewhere around here. Here it is. Okay. Roman numeral number 4. No, that's 6. Roman numeral 6. New applications. 05-23-01 timber harvest. 12 Corbin Road, Reinhardt and Hull Forest Products. Okay. That was received May 9th. Okay.
So would it be possible, is Mike on? Yeah,
Yeah,
Mike,
I'm
could
on.
you, you're on, so if I look at page 3, which is the aerial photo with the
Mhm.
marking, you said that you're gonna restore a field east of Corbin Road. Could you point out where that is? If, because I can't tell, I'm not familiar where Corbin Road is, so.
Corbin
sorry.
Road is the driveway going up to the house, and then the dotted green and black line that goes to the north, slightly northwest and then
Yep.
north. That's Corbin
Yep.
Road. The area of Old Fields is to the right above the harvest area. It doesn't extend over to that wetland area. So let's see, I don't know, can you see my mouse or not? Probably not. Well, the
Can
mouse
you
that's
screen
showing,
share, Dan?
yes, yeah, that mouse there, yeah. If you go down to the south a little bit, you can almost, I don't know if you can see the walls there or not. You're just about, well, it's right in that area where the mouse is now. and to
Okay.
the left, over to Corbin Road, right that area there. There is 2 smaller fields there. Like I said, it does not extend to that easterly boundary. So that area there, he'd like to restore the field area. There's no wetlands in that area at all.
Yeah.
And then the balance of the project is a thinning in accordance with recommendations by DEP Service Forester Frank Servo, and mainly an improvement thinning. We are there's some ash along that wetland feature, in that wetland feature. That's a very small, it's about as far upland as you can go in that drainage. There was some water there, a month and a half, 2 months ago. Right now, I'm sure it's dry. It's, there's no water course to speak of there. It's just some surface water at times when the water tables are high enough. So basically an improvement, thinning on the property, some, restoration of field there, and that's it. I mean, we're planning on harvesting some trees in the wetland area, but it's extremely stony, and not a clear cut by any means.
Okay. If nobody else has any questions, I move to approve at 12 Corbin Road, Reinhardt Hull Forest Products, Inc.
Second by Bill Rowinski.
Motion's been made by Marla Butts, seconded by Bill Rowinski to approve timber harvest application 05-23-01. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, abstained, so moved.
Thank you.
Right, thank you. Okay. Roman numeral 7, administrative business, discussion of Lakeview Drive drainage issue.
So this was Mr. Bentley.
Yep.
I went out to the site and walked it with him. He had completed some grading and seeded on his hill slope. We walked around the pond on atop the area that's kind of an embankment that he shored or added to support the pond. And then we walked a loop around the road to observe some of the drainage issues on the road. And he is willing to participate, but we've been telling him about this meeting, and we were hoping to have him on to hash out the expectations from the commission. I did see seepage, so there's a large slope that comes down from the hill to the water. Ultimately, he's got this field and a pond, kind of as a barrier between the road, Lakeview Drive, and the houses along Lakeview Drive, then the pond. So water sheds off the Monahan property across the street, into the field, down the slope, and sometimes into the pond. I observed water seeping from the field hundreds of feet away from where the pond is, through the field, under kind of like a stone wall, just seeping out of the ground into the ditch line of the road, and then proceeding down the road, wrapping around the road, so basically where the pond is, but no water coming out of the pond or in that embankment. But I'd like to pick this up again at our next meeting. I don't know if members have had a chance to look at it themselves, just to drive through on Lakeview Road. And I know I want to work with Marla a little bit on contacting Deep Dam Safety to see if they're involved in something like this. I haven't been able to do that outreach yet, but I'd hope to have Mr. Bentley on the meeting, but we've been leaving messages. We don't have an email. On top of that, the commission noticed last month that there was information on our Zoom meeting documents page. There was an information gap in, I think, the late 2000, where there was 6 meetings worth of Zoom meeting documents that weren't up on our website. And I've checked with our point contact is Human Resources. So I checked with Human Resources to see if this information was available, deleted, if it was ever uploaded. So Human Resources was creating the OneDrive and uploading the documents up into a certain point in the year. And then there's a 6-month gap. And then Ashley Stevens picks up as the person uploading to the OneDrive. I don't know if that's a period of time when there was discontinuity in the land use office and nobody was uploading the Zoom meeting documents, but Mr. Bentley's materials that he presented at that time, I don't have those materials digitally.
And if I'm just working on my memory, but I think that this started just at the same time Ashley was starting. So I don't think there was any previous. Is that right?
I actually
You're cutting out, Marla. Cannot hear you.
I researched the information from the old minutes. So back November 15th, can you hear me?
Yes.
Now I can.
So I'll call in if I can get there.
This is Bill Rowinski. I'm gonna cut in here and say, I did the initial investigation because we had no wetlands agent at the time. And we were between agents, and I went out and did some field observations and took some pictures. And at the time, the water that kind of sheds off that place, area of the pond has to go down the side of the road approximately, I'd say 400 feet to get to a catch basin to go under the road. And in the process of getting there, it was saturating the ground and creating problems with at least one septic system getting frozen up.
I'm sorry, Dan, one thing I didn't hear was, was there any, on your site survey, did you look at the compaction, or could you see any sort of on the berm that any possibility of the berm not being able to stand up over time?
The berm didn't look stressed to me. It looked pretty established and vegetated. I didn't see any evidence of over topping of it with sedimentation. I think
My
I think we might
concern
have
was
one.
that it wasn't installed, the berm wasn't constructed, with,
Engineered.
yeah.
Bill Berwinski again, there was seepage through the berm when I did the additional investigation.
There was.
Yes.
Was that, how long ago was that, Bill? Did he
I'd
do
have-
subsequent work to it, or because it looks?
I don't know that he did any subsequent work to it. That was, the ground was freezing at the time. I can't say exactly when. It was probably before Zoom meetings even. So maybe pre-pandemic. I'd have to go back and try to dig up the pictures and put a date on them.
Okay, I'm back. My phone.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so this site originally came to the Wetlands Commission in November 15th as an application 11-21-11.
Was that
And at
November,
that time,
what November 20 or 19?
November 21,
21, okay.
2021. Okay. And at that time, a motion was made to accept the application with the understanding that additional requested information would be provided at the next meeting. So that was in November. And then in December, Mr. Bentley sent us a letter dated December 3rd, 2021. And he explained what he did to the property, that he purchased it in 2014, and most of the water ran down across the pasture and emptied into Lakeview Drive. And he said since that time, he'd cleaned out the pond and created a small swale to direct the runoff into the pond. And that most of the excessive water still empties onto Lakeview Drive, running across the street and ending up in his neighbor's basements. That is 22 Lakeview Drive and 28 Lakeview Drive. He talked about being in September, that would have been in September of 2021. There had been heavy rains, and he helped build a temporary curbing in front of 22 Lakeview Drive to keep the water away from the house. Then to eliminate this problem before more damage was done in front of these front properties, I provided an excavator to build a berm 100 feet long and approximately 3 feet above the pond's high water level. I then installed an 8-inch pipe running through the berm to keep the level of the pond constant, approximately 18 inches below the previous high water level. To build the berm, I used soil from around the area which was flooded during digging the pond deeper and larger to hold more excess runoff water. There was no need to bring any additional materials into the property or remove it from the property. And then to better direct the water from Bungie Hill Road into the pond, he built a sediment chamber 10 feet by 5 feet to catch the runoff out of the pipe. And the water then runs down over a large swale, 10 feet wide, 5 feet deep, entering into a 10-inch cement drain pipe, which empties into the pond. He then seeded the entire area, and he said he didn't think the grass would show until spring. This was in December of 21. So, and there should be a file, Dan, application number should be in the drawer somewhere, 11-21-11. So as the commission tried to work through the issues on this, there was a number of photographs that were taken. In December, because of his letter, the application was tabled. And it was determined that this was an after-the-fact permit to expand the pond pending professional review. And then in January, Mr. Bentley granted the commission a 60-day extension to process the application. Mr. Bentley also needed to get a permit for the work that was done. And it was recommended that he contact John Navarro, the Public Works Director, for names of engineering firms that would be able to assist him. So then by letter dated January 20th, there's a letter from Norm Tybell, engineer, describing, and it looks like I may not have the entire letter. I may only have the front page. No, I have the whole page. And it's actually signed and sealed by him, where he identifies the recommendations and the assessments. Subsequent to that letter in February, the commission said that the application that was granted in November, that was received in November and granted a 60-day extension, was last granted on January 15th. The application only has 30 days remaining to render decision. And then it said James Bentley will contact Ashley Stevens to get a complete list of the needs for the Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Agency. He will then bring the list to Killingly Engineering Associates for completion and bring the requested plan to the next wetlands meeting. Then subsequent to that, we ended up getting a letter from Carl Akamovic dated February 21st, 2022. That's the next thing we hear. I don't know. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, I don't. Subsequent to that, in March, we said the minutes for March 7th, 2022. On page 2, it states that we received the letter from Lake Bungie and the letter from Carl Akamovic making recommendations to correct the drainage concerns. I requested Ashley Stevens to forward the letter from Carl Akamovic to the engineer working for Mr. Bentley at Killingly Engineering. Then it goes on to say, because this application has been withdrawn, and I don't have any documentation on the withdrawal, but it said at this time, the only actions that can be made by the commission are to monitor the property and be sure that all information is properly distributed to the engineers and the parties. This application will be revisited when it's submitted by Mr. Bentley. And I had noted that the minutes were to be changed to be with 90 days of the withdrawal date. So I don't know exactly when the withdrawal date was, but if it was February, then we should have seen something late last summer at latest. We've received nothing. So the next thing we have is the letter from Carl Akamovic on March 21st, 2023. So I think Dan has to find that file to see what correspondence is. Because there must have been withdrawn. I don't know what Ashley did with it, but that I think is the next step that we have to do, is find out what we have, what the list of the requirements are still needed for the site plan. He's going to have to do a site plan. Whether I suspect that DEP, unless they can see that the failure of the berm will cause a threat to life of property, they probably will call it a Class A dam. You don't know. They could regulate it, and if they regulated it, then that's different value. So Dan's correct. We should check with DEP to get it assessed because it is a dam. And then if DEP doesn't regulate it, if they say it's a Class A dam, then it comes back to the Wetlands Commission for action. So if we could probably do something before the next meeting to find that old file and to check with DEP, asking them to investigate whether or not it's subject to their jurisdiction. Then we could deal with it. If it's not their jurisdiction, we can deal with it from there. But if it is their jurisdiction, we're going to have a little bit of a problem.
This is Stuart.
Because they have.
Stuart asking a question. My concern, Marla, is if there was an overtopping, or if the berm failed and adjacent properties had damage, Who's got the liability for that?
Mr. Bentley,
Okay. Since
But
we,
the-
all right,
we're not the ones who did the work. See,
Right.
under the Inland Wetlands Act, the Lake Association or the property owners, they can turn around and sue under the Inland Wetlands Act. They can bring an action in court. And that's a whole nother venue other than the Wetlands Commission taking an action. But right now, the Wetlands Commission needs to know whether or not it's subject to dam safety jurisdiction or not. Still could issue a notice of violation. I don't think there was ever a notice of violation issued on this site because an application came in because Ashley was dealing with it. I looked back to see if there was something that Tina LaJoy might have done. I couldn't find anything. The first thing I saw in the minutes is the application being received in November of 21. I don't have anything beyond that. There may be something in the file, some notes or something. But I doubt it.
I think it would behoove us to clarify the timeline and just make sure that all of these points are black and white. So there's no gray area as scrutiny continues.
I will be
I would
able to scour the office tomorrow for that file, and I could produce a timeline from the documentation that's in it and get it around before the next meeting. And rebuild the file in a sense for us to have the conversation over.
That'd be great.
Bill Rowinski, my recollection is that Mr. Bentley might have withdrawn the application due to difficulties in trying to enlist an engineer and get some work done. I don't know if anybody else has that recollection or not.
Sounds familiar,
Yeah.
but that just doesn't mean it's suspended. We have to, what we're doing now is the due diligence to follow up and see where it's going,
Okay.
what
And
action.
yeah. In addition to that, this is Bill Rowinski again. When I did that initial investigation, it was from a complaint brought by David Caffro, who has since sold his property. But there was an excavator at the top of his driveway in his yard, and it appeared that the septic system was all frozen up because of the amount of water that was in there.
Yeah, this could just be a real problem going forward, so.
All right, so we'll pull all that information together, Dan, and in the meantime, before next month's meeting, check with DEP, Dam Safety Unit, to see if they think it should be under their purview or not. And then we'll get this on the agenda for the July meeting.
Sounds good.
Okay. Roman numeral 7, letter B, update on 399 Roseland Park Road grading.
Mike Grenier here.
Hello,
I might,
Good evening. I mean, basically, all I want to do is just restate, the invitation that I gave you folks. I think it was last, October, November, when we discussed this. And what I basically did, I guess I went about it a little bit the wrong way. So I revised it. And just to refresh your memories, I instead of putting a pond in, what I'd like to do is I got one high area, and what I mean by high, it's probably less than a foot that blocks a good portion of the water when we get water on this property from draining. And I would like to I have somebody, one of the local farmers that hays this property. So I don't want to put like just a trench in. I would like to take about, maybe a 12 to 16 foot wide area and just make a slow grade that would lower that portion of the property to the other points for drainage purposes. And, you know, this is why I gave you guys the invitation to come over here, because it's easier to see it and to see how little I really want to do to be able to drain this water out of here. You folks have the pictures that I provided last year showing how close the water actually comes to the house. And it stays there at different times of the year. It'll stay there for a couple of months because it has no way to drain. And I just want to, you know, re-invite you guys, you folks, because I know there is a lady on the council, you know, out here at your convenience. I know it's difficult to get everybody together at the same time. I am retired. You can come out on an individual basis, and I will show you what I want to do. It will probably only take 15 or 20 minutes of your time.
So this is Marla Butt speaking. Mr. Grenier, you had a site plan that you submitted with your original application that showed the ponded area that you wanted to dig out. And so it looks like you actually had, it's the property survey that was done for Eva Spalding, done by
Yep.
Killingly Engineering.
Yep.
It would be helpful if you took that base map that you got from Killingly Engineering and drew onto it where you're talking about, where you wanted to remove material from and where you want to move material to.
Okay.
Because I've driven by the property a number of times, and I can see that along Muddy Brook that there's a slight levee next to the brook. And there's been some filling that had been done by the prior owner, I believe, not too far from the top of bank of the brook. So I'm having a hard time understanding. I'd rather not go out into the field. I'd rather see a drawing because I could read the drawing pretty well. And I understood that you had gotten in touch with Killingly Engineering to find out what they could do for you. And I think it would be very helpful at this point in time because you really need a site plan to see what it is that you're doing. Verbal is not enough. I mean, it may give us an idea of what you want to do, but when something goes wrong and there's a disagreement about what you said in the field, we go back to what the drawing says. And right now, we don't have a drawing showing what you want to do, where you want to move material. I will say one thing, because you are in the 100-year floodplain for a good portion of your property, any loss of flood storage would have to be compensated on the same property. So depending on where you're going to take the material from and where you're going to put it to, it may be adequate compensation. It would be, you know, no flood storage loss. And that's what we want to make sure. It sounds like you would like to have less flooding close to your home but still have the ability for when floods come to fill up the floodplain. You're just moving the materials around, but I can't tell where you're moving it from and to.
Yeah, okay. Basically, I would just be removing, and it would be, again, a minimal amount of material, but you probably have seen the berm that I put around the back part of the property. And all I would do, because the material I would be taking out would be just extra material, I would use that material to raised, I have the berm almost to the point where I want it, where I think if it was to flood again, the berm would hold the water back. But you never know what Mother Nature can throw at you. And since I've been here, we have had, it's just about 4 years now, we have been flooded twice. And
You mean your house? You mean your house has been flooded?
no, the water came up to within about 4 feet of the back door. The doors on the addition that was put on in, I believe, I don't have the paperwork right in front of me, but I think the addition was put on in 2018. There's 2 sets of sliders and a man door that are ground level. And it is very easy for the water to get in with the doors at ground level. And like I said, before I put the berm in is when we had the water come up to within about 4 feet of the door. And what I have done, because I was a contractor before I retired, I took my laser and I took a benchmark from the back door, the lowest of the 3 doors. And I put that laser to the berm. And I am right now about 6 inches lower than the door, the back door. So I would take that extra material and just make the berm a bit taller. And then eventually I want in back of the berm closest to the house, I'm going to have that all filled in and just put new lawn in. But what I could do is I can get that map again, and I can draw in, because the area that I'm talking about that has to come down maximum, I haven't put a laser on that, which I can, and I can get within about a ½ an inch of accuracy with my laser. I'm saying at the very most, it's going to be a foot by about 40 feet long and about 30 feet wide, or I should say 16 feet wide, because I just want to swale it and then just let the grass grow back. And when the guy goes into hay it, he doesn't just drop into a ditch, that it's just a swale that he could just go right through and take the hay down. But it's not a big area. Like I said, it's probably about 40, maximum 50 feet long by about, we'll say 14 to 16 feet wide is all I would need. And really, even if you go down a foot, I mean, that material you're taking out will probably be about 10 or 12 yards at the most.
Okay, so that's the kind of information that you'd want to draw on that base survey. If you can shoot grades and you can figure out how much cubic yardage, that's what we need to know. We need to know where the area is that's going to go down, how far it's going to go down, where the material, how much of that material, where it's going to go.
Yeah.
And you just explained it, but put it on, since you're familiar with contracting, you're familiar with site plans.
Yep.
So you should be able to draw something up that you, if you were a contractor coming into a site that said, look, I need this changed around, you would be able to read it from the site plan. That's what we need to get from you.
I can do that. That's not a problem.
Why don't you do that and submit that in for next meeting so we can take a look at it.
Okay. The only thing I wish we would have talked about this last year, because, and again, Mother Nature plays a big toll in this. But, you know, unless I had, and even if I had a piece of equipment on tracks, there are certain times of the year you can't even get in there.
That's
Even
because it's wetlands. It's wetlands. You bought a piece of property that's got a lot of wetlands.
Let's look.
They just happen to be wet meadows because they're mowed.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, what I will do is, you know, I will draw this up for you and I'll bring it into Dan and, you know, hopefully we can get this, you know, rectified or, you know, at least further along by next meeting.
Right.
Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your time.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Bye. Yeah,
Bye.
bye.
All right. So Dan, you can work with him when he starts getting some stuff into you, so.
Yep. Thanks for talking with him, guys.
Yep, thank you. All right, Roman numeral number 7, under administrative business, letter C, discussion of the application permit fee. Marla, were you gonna work on something for that?
I sent you guys via email
Yep, I got it.
a draft.
April 26, 23 draft application fee structure.
Mhm. So here's the problem. What's been happening at town hall, when I figured out the fees, I figured it out based on a certain salary. I think I put it at $33 an hour. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't have the file
Yeah,
up in front of me.
You put it at 40.
Yeah, it's 40.
Well, that's
Okay.
with benefits. That's with benefits. You have to add in benefits package if it's somebody who is considered to be not part-time.
I don't see 33.
And
I don't see 33, that's all.
you would have had 40 because I would have added in the percentage. What I had taken was my salary in Thompson originally and increased it by the standard every year. It goes up 2% or 3%, depending on the union contract. I'm not union, but they increase it the same as the amount as the union. And then I added another 40% onto that. And that's what brought it up to $40 an hour. Now, it's my understanding that Dan has backed off of doing the zoning stuff. And now they've had to hire, they couldn't find anybody to take that position. So now they've had to hire a consultant at a much higher rate of pay, much higher than what they were willing to pay Dan. So when we're looking at fees, it gets difficult to try to figure out what is the actual cost because I have no idea what the actual salary that the town is going to offer because, correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, but aren't they paying over $100 an hour for the consultant to do the zoning enforcement stuff?
We were gathering some numbers a while back, and the number that was used for Mike D'Amato's services in the past was $125 an hour. I don't think we had a number for Tyke yet.
Okay. So you can see the problem in trying to figure out the fee if you don't know what the true cost is going to be to the town to have an agent process, the staff person process it. The other change is that Woodstock has a clerk. Thompson does not have a clerk. So the amount of time spent at what salary grade becomes a little more complicated because I was charging at my salary rate, not at a clerk salary rate for certain things like logging in and creating the files and doing that grunt administrative work.
Does anyone know what the time frame is for the current CEO?
They don't have one. They haven't been able to find anybody, not at the price they were offering.
They use this firm for 10 hours a week, I believe is the contract with them. And it's
Indefinitely.
Yeah. I don't think it's a long-term solution I think it's a transition. They're looking at it, both the town and Tyke are looking at it as a transition type of situation. But they utilize 3 separate people in their firm and they bounce these ideas off of each other. So it's like one person, 3 zoning heads. You know, it could be worth $125 an hour. They are quick to review. They don't let the desk pile up. They probably have over 50, 60 years combined experience, and they've written regs in all of them. So there's a higher caliber here with the service they provide. But it is hard to pin a number for your average professional employed in the role by the town.
Well, they're probably going by industry standard then.
Well, they're doing it through a consultant, which is different than municipal employee,
Right.
because they have a lot of overhead, which municipal employees, you're not charging for that overhead.
Right.
So I don't know, you know, when I sent it all to you, I identified a whole bunch of different components that need to go into figuring out a fee. And Dan's been doing the job there, but he's still fairly new on the job. And we are in the process of changing the application form. So actually the fee schedule probably should be delayed until we finalize the application form, so we know how much detail has to go in review, a better idea of what has to go into review. So I would table the discussion on the application permit fee and move to the permit application form.
On your, before we do that, just so I understand what this breakdown is, the rounded
Mhm.
cost is your estimated assessment for what the applications would be?
Yeah,
So on the
what the
right,
cost of processing.
so the $40 unit cost is in 2023.
Mhm.
And we would anticipate that, let's just say hypothetically, that's gonna be increasing on a 2% annually.
Yep, about that. At least that's what it's been for the last, I don't know, 6, 7 years. Sometimes it's 3%, sometimes it's 2%. Varies depending on the contract the town has.
So then we would anticipate that this would be out of date within 5 years.
Yeah, but could be. Could be, yep.
Well, the bottom line is that we're short now and
Mhm.
we need to do something, so,
We're gonna be
Mm.
shorter later.
yep. So what is,
Yep.
Marla, can you tell us what the process, or anybody tell us what the process would be of changing the fees?
Yeah, it's part of your regulation. So
Okay.
if you're gonna change the fees, you wanna kind of take a quick look at the regulation, see if there's any statute changes that have come up that need to be incorporated into the regulations. Because you have to go through public hearing process. You have to publish 2 legal notices before the public hearing. Then you hold a public hearing, then you render decision. You have to publish another legal notice after the rendered decision on the request to, or the decision to amend the regulations. But it's part of the permit. I mean, it's a part of a regulation amendment process, and it'll take probably, once you get the text that you want to have, it would take probably 2 months to get through the process, because it has to go out to public notice, public hearing. And I don't know how you want to do that.
When was the last time this was done?
No. What's the last revision date of our regulations? Anybody got the regulations handy?
February 2nd, 2009.
That sounds about
2000.
right. That sounds about right.
Yep, so,
2009?
so it's section 19 of the Woodstock Inland Wetlands and Watercourses, regulations, amendments through February 2nd, 2009. So Bill, we're gonna have to go through section 19 and make revisions, and that's section 19 are all the fees, the fee schedule that we have, so. We need to bump all of those up and then, of course, justify it.
Well, that's what the table's supposed to help you do, is justify the fees that you're asking for.
Right.
So the question just is do those numbers make sense for Woodstock? And I don't know, because I'm not in town hall, so I really don't know whether or not they should be higher or should be lower. But one of the problems that the towns are having is they're underpaying their agents. You know, you have to have some skills to do this, and they're not paying people enough. So people aren't gonna, and it's part-time. So why, if you're paying part-time, you got to pay them more per hour. Otherwise, you're not going to do it. I mean, and you can't live off of that kind of salary. So I'm not sure. The other thing you want to do is check in the regulations, since we were talking about changing the application forms. If the regulations make reference to a specific application name. So we really should probably each of us take a look, go through the regs and see if there's anything that we think should be changed. You want to do it all at once. You don't want to have to do it a little piece here and a little piece there. And
Well, I think it's a great opportunity to look at maybe case studies in other towns that might help us gauge what our evaluations are. Because
I've already done that. I did that. Yeah, I did that when I was coming up with Thompson. I went around to see what kinds of fees there were, and what the salaries were, if I could find them for the various agents. Fortunately, because they combine functions differently in different towns. Some towns combine the wetlands function with the zoning enforcement officer. Others combine it with the blight officer. Some towns combine it with flood management. It varies from town to town, so it makes it difficult to kind of identify, qualifications and skill sets that you're paying for. I mean, if you go to Putnam and you look at Putnam's, their wetlands agent, he makes big bucks, but he's also got a couple of other that he's doing too. So it's hard. Yeah, it's hard. It gets figured out.
From what I understand, they're pretty overwhelmed as well.
Yeah, well, I could share with you the information I got from other towns that I collected from other towns, but that's on a separate
That's
document.
okay. I mean, it's not, I think it would just help us gauge. I mean, they may have a higher volume of work and so on and so forth. It depends on the population and.
Mm-hmm. So I would suggest that if you want to move forward with changing the fees, getting started, I think it would also be wise that we all go through the regs and come up with recommendations for changes. Might want to do that by the next meeting if you really want to move forward on the fees.
I think it's sort of it's like a no-brainer. We got to do it, right?
No, they don't got to do it, but I think it's a smart thing to do. And who's read through the regulations from start to finish?
Right.
Lately?
Not
Not
recently.
really.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So if there've been other regulation changes at the state level, it would be good to, let's do it all at once. Don't do
No,
it
exactly.
piecemeal,
Exactly. Yeah.
so.
And the other thing you need to remember, before you can change your regulations, you have to forward them to DEP in advance for their
Right.
comment.
Right.
So if you don't do it in advance, then it can hold you off in an effective date, getting the regs effectively adopted.
Okay.
So
So
this
we
could
really need to.
this could take a long time. So, or a certain length of time. maybe we should anticipate in planning for what that date would be. So we don't just keep pushing it off, and we could set a deadline, maybe 6, 8, 9 months, 10, 12 months, whatever you think. But
I
know.
think you should have a very short-term goal that you try to adhere to, which is review the regulations and find out what the changes are you want. Once you know what the changes are you want, then you can figure out how long it's going to be. Because if you put it off 9 months, nobody's going to do anything for the first 7,
right.
and then all of a sudden it'll be the 8th month. So I think you have to hit a small goal first. And I think maybe for next meeting, we should all go through and send to Dan recommendations for changes to the regs so that he could create a red line version of the changes. Dan, I don't know if you have a Word copy of the regs or not. I can look to see if I have one. I think I do.
I'll do some digging. It's possible.
So these, when you say regs, you're just talking about wetlands.
The town,
Yeah.
the town of Woodstock Inland Wetlands Reg, right?
All right.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, those are available online, I believe, right?
They're in PDF form. They're not in
Yeah.
Word file, Word
Yeah.
document.
Oh, okay.
If I find it in Word, in a Word format, what I can do is I can forward that to you all. And if you wanted to give Dan recommendations by doing track changes, if you know anything about track changes in
Not a
Word,
thing. No,
too bad.
we could do,
But you
is that
could,
like,
you
is
could
that
print
like
it out.
ChatGPT?
No, not quite. What you could do is you could take a printout of the regs and then just handwrite in whatever the changes are. And Dan can get those and assemble them into a track changes kind of document with a red line. So
I'll
we
look
can
up-
see what the changes are.
I'll look up track changes.
Yeah, it's easy to do. You have to know how to turn the switches on and off.
All right.
It's in the menu bar at the top. If you show the menu bar, it'll say document review. It'll say review. If you click review, you'll get a whole slew of a menu bar. And in that menu bar under review is track changes. And you can turn it on, you can turn it off. You can view the changes. You can turn the changes off so you can see the original, the way it originally looked. Then you can turn it on as a simple change. You can see what the changes are. You can add comments into it.
Okay, good.
You can,
So it's like revision dating.
yeah, and it's
Cool.
it keeps record of it. It's really pretty handy.
So Dan, you should be able to find it, but if you don't, you should have a hard copy like I do here. And you can always scan it.
Yeah, mine's missing the cover.
Yeah, right.
Hopefully not missing a couple pages too, but
Right. Okay, yeah.
I'll keep an eye out. We have a shared digital drive that's a repository of a lot of
Yep.
older stuff, and I presume I'll find it there.
So Marla, back on the this fee structure, the breakdown of unit cost, time 1, time 2, cost 1, cost 2, average cost.
Yeah.
So
That's a range.
okay, but this really just for our use. That's not for the applicant's use, right? They won't.
No. That's for getting a feel for. Some applications take a little bit of time. Some take longer bit of time. So when you
Okay,
get an application, there's a range of time that could be committed. So
All
I said,
right.
okay, let's take the short time. That's cost 1. Let's take the longest time. That's cost 2, and then let's average it to see on an average what it would come up to be. So then you could pick and choose what you wanted as far as the value that you were looking
All right.
for. And that's why I wanted to do things in an average, because you're going to lose money on real complicated applications like the gas station, but you're going to gain money on ones that are simple, like swimming pool. I mean, it doesn't necessarily take a lot of time.
right.
So would it be reasonable to ask that we all try to review the regs by the August meeting And
Mhm.
that we then also begin to, have a document, a shared document that we can then begin to make some proposed revisions. Maybe we could work on that for a couple of months. So like by the October meeting, maybe we could have a kind of a proposed draft, a draft of proposed regulations.
Mark, can I float one idea
Yeah, go ahead.
on the applications that are more like Marla said, like real complex gas station type of thing. So we don't lose money. I'm wondering if we couldn't do an application fee based on percentage of construction cost. Or work cost, whatever is involved. For example, like the gas station that's going up now, what that's an 800,000 or $1.2 million project. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of time, lot more time in the application process. Maybe that's something to look at. Just so
Well,
we don't.
The statute says you can only charge to cover the cost of processing the application. So you would have to be able to justify that amount of money. If it was like a $2 million project and you were asking for 1%, you're going to have to justify that.
Yeah, I think
Whatever the cost, you have to be able to justify it.
because I think that they're in a project like that, it may require administration throughout the process. It's not just the application, but the wetlands agent might have to make site visits.
Well, if you look at New Milford's fee schedule, you'll find that they charge for everything. And
Yeah.
how they collect the money, I have no idea. They charge for inspections of the site during construction. I don't know how they couldn't get the money. I don't know how they do that. Maybe it's by a different ordinance.
Maybe we could, it's not maybe they're the extreme. We don't have to be that, but at least somewhere in between there that, the town's not getting a haircut every time they issue an application.
True. True.
Something to consider, that's all, just a suggestion. Because I think what the merit of it is that we can then anticipate or try for, getting good, dependable resources within town hall instead of turnover and the ambiguity of when, how, who is going to be there.
Yeah.
Quick question. Is the regulation date February 2nd, 2009?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to forward it. I have a Word file that's got that, and I'll forward it to you all, right? Get it by.
Okay. Yep.
Thank you, Marla.
All right. So are we ready to move on to Roman numeral number 7, letter D, review of updated permit application?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I have made some edits into the application. Unfortunately, I don't have the document to share with everybody tonight.
All right. Let's put it on the agenda for next month.
Okay. Sorry about that, guys.
Okay.
I do have if you want, I do have a suggestion for that as well.
Yeah, sure.
it's kind of along the same lines as the last thing, and the last topic was, I'm wondering if we can also classify or categorize, I've mentioned this topic before, but if we could put a type of work application that might help just categorize things. This is an application type 1, this is an application type 2, or an application type 2A. And that would be in the regulations and just be easier to understand, maybe, I don't know. Just a thought.
What do you mean, Stu? Application number 1? I don't understand. What's the difference?
Well, what we have are the, it's kind of based on where our location is with regards to the wetlands. And I'm just saying, maybe we could say, well, this is a multifamily dwelling or a single family dwelling, or, an agricultural enterprise or something like that, that fits into one of the following categories, type 1 or type A, or type 1A, or, you know what I mean? It's just, it just groups these different conditions so that we know the application, and that might help us also anticipate how much time is involved, and then we could gauge what the fee would be as well.
Okay.
Just a thought, just to try to help organize different steps. Whether we need a commission review or just, as of right by the wetlands agent.
The wetlands agent, unless we change the regs, doesn't have the ability to do uses permitted as of right.
Okay.
He can determine if there's, unless you change the regs. So for example, one of the things that the statute doesn't speak to is work in the upland review area. There's a lot of stuff that people do in the upland review area that shouldn't have to come through a wetlands agent approval or a permit process, because it's maintenance and enjoyment of residential home. But there's
Right.
nothing in the regulations that says the agent can make that determination in the upland review area. And I think they should, but it has to be in the regs in order for the agent to have the authority, because there's nothing in the statute about work in the upland review area or uses permitted as of right in the upland review area. It even doesn't even mention the upland review area at all. So that's a creature of the courts. So that could be something that we could look at changing in the regs. That would mean it would streamline a lot more stuff. When we find that, as long as the agent had enough information to say, hey, this is no problem. There's an existing residential home. They want to put in a swimming pool. They've got adequate erosion and sediment controls. It's not going to be any effect to the wetlands or water course. Use permitted as of right, maintenance and enjoyment of residential home. Why not?
Yeah.
I mean,
Great.
and maybe there should be a small fee for that.
Yeah. I think it
But
makes
that
sense. Yeah.
That language has to be put into the regulations, though. It's not there now.
That
So
would make,
Dan can only say, you need a permit, you don't need a permit. You need a wetlands agent approval, you don't need a wetlands agent approval. He can't say, yeah, your use permitted as of right, not, maintenance and enjoyment of residential home. He technically can't do that, technically.
oh,
But he can use his prosecutorial discretion.
In Windsor Locks, when I was the wetlands agent there, we called it, we added a new section in our regulations for minor structures that were reviewable by the agent. And these minor structures included pools, sheds, stuff like that, uses related to the maintenance and enjoyment of the home. But we broke it out as not a separate permit type. I'd have to review it it's been a while since I looked at what we wrote. But it was a minor structure language is what we referred to it pretty much as when we were working through the process.
Well, the key word that you use, Marla, is streamlining. And if whenever we can streamline anything, that's going to cut our costs as well. So,
And make the public happy.
yeah, it works on both sides of the desk.
Especially, I mean, for people to wait for the meeting date to come around.
Yeah.
or-
it's tough. So we'll continue looking at the regs and possibilities for how we could innovate.
I'll show,
So-
I'll find the language that I came up with too and share that with the commission. It could slot right in, or it could be a totally, but I'm with Stu that some things shouldn't have to wait for the commission process, that if we have all the appropriate information that we need to do a review, I can authorize that and report that back to the commission.
Yeah, good.
So I've already sent you all electronic Word copy of the February 2nd, 2009 regs, so you should have it in your email boxes by now.
Not yet.
I have it.
It's taken a while to get to mine.
So Mark, yours went to 269 at charter.net, MN Parker. Stuart, yours went to woodstockarch@gmail.com.
Correct.
All right. And Dan, if you didn't get yours, it went to Dan
probably
Malo at
Got it.
woodstock.gov. Okay. All
Yeah,
right, sorry.
Mine probably has to go through security checks and other things
Yep.
with the town.
Okay.
And if I don't get it, I'll get it. I'll get it from you.
You'll get it from me. Just ask me next time you're in the office.
I got it.
I got mine.
So I would suggest that we all go through it between now and the next meeting, get our comments to Dan. Spend a little time in the next week or two to do that. See what we think the changes might be.
That's what's that, 3 weeks? When's our next meeting? First Monday of July, right?
First Monday of July is July 3rd, so that's going to be July 10th.
Okay, so July, you can have the next meeting on July 10th?
Yeah, because July 4th is Tuesday.
Right.
I might have difficulty attending that meeting, but I'll be able to prep it and have the documents up online like we've been doing. And a report, I'll make a report of follow-up activities and also this follow-up from the business we discussed today.
Sounds good. Okay. All right, we got any citizens' comments? Still have any citizens here today? Okay. All right. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I so
Motion-
moved, we adjourn.
Second by Bill Rowinski.
Motion's been made by Marla Budd, seconded by Bill Rowinski to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, abstained, so moved. at 8:32 PM by my computer digital readout.
Everyone have a good night.
All right, thank you.
Thanks,
you very
Dan.
much.
Appreciate it.
Have a good one.
Thank you,
Bye.
Donnie.